Yes, Sofia is in the house. Sofia Xavier is here in the flesh, even though we are a virtual space. Please, please know I'm excited, ignited, and delighted to have you shining the spotlight on you today. Please introduce yourself to our listening audience.
Thank you so much, Tish. I do feel home. I think from the
Yeah.
moment that I met you, I had that sense of familiarity that I really
Mhm.
loved. And today, as you said, even though it's virtual, I do
Yeah.
feel home, and
Yes.
I'm very grateful for this space. So my name is Sofia Xavier. I'm from Portugal, currently based in Bangkok, Thailand. I've been based in Asia for almost a decade now, and I'm the founder of Xavier Works and Co. and Pico Academy as well. And so my work is systemic. So I work with
Mhm.
systemic coaching with methodologies from a variety of disciplines, including neurolinguistics programming, hypnosis, family constellations, GSR, which is a Russian method,
Mhm.
um, psychoanalysis, Jungian psychology, and so on. And basically, I combine all of that into my approach to coaching that is deep, profound, and created to really generate a lot of impact in the world on an individual level, on a collective level. That is my vision.
I love it. I do apologize for not saying your last name correct. Here in America, we pronounce it Xavier, but you say
Xavier.
Xavier. I love it. I learn something
This is
new
how we pronounce
every
it in Portugal.
day. Xavier. I love it. I love it. I love it. Wonderful. The first question that we have for you to answer is, was there a turning point personally or an awakening that caused you to get into transformational work?
Yes. So when I was a teenager, I was diagnosed with arthritis, and that for me was the most painful period of my life. It was a very dark period in a way. I was physically ill. So I was diagnosed with arthritis, and I was also emotionally not doing very well. So I got diagnosed with depression. I was very anxious. There was a lot that was not going on. And of course, the body, I think, is so wise. So
Yes.
the body is constantly communicating, right?
Mhm.
So it gives us a lot of data.
Yes.
Um, and in traditional medicine, we treat with
Medication.
pills and medication,
Mhm.
and so we cover the symptoms.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
it's very important that we acknowledge physical illness as data.
Mhm.
It's the
Yes.
body communicating wisdom.
That's
And
right.
if we don't listen, it will keep showing up as
Mhm.
disease. It will keep showing
Mhm.
up in
Mhm.
other forms
Yes.
until we start listening. And
Mhm.
so that was my wake up call. I
Mhm.
was a teenager. Doctors told me I would have to just live with it because it's a chronic condition.
Mhm.
But something about that didn't really convince me. So at the time, I thought, I wasn't very optimistic about my life at the time because obviously I was in a lot of pain. I could not hold a pen to write. So at the time, I remember doing my exams
Mhm.
with an assistant teacher that would
Mhm.
help me to write the exams,
Mhm.
but I
Mhm.
couldn't handwrite myself.
Mhm.
But something was telling me, there's something bigger
Yes.
after this, and
Yes.
that kind of kept me going. And I remember that was the big awakening in my
Mhm.
life. I did come across people who were doing energy healing at the
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
Um, and so I started to question, what is reality?
Yes.
who is God? What am
Mhm.
I doing here?
Mhm.
And I remember asking those questions. And so after that, it was really about started studying everything that I could about the mind,
Mhm.
how could I heal not only physically but also emotionally, because
Mhm.
by healing emotionally, I would be healing physically.
Yes.
Physical body was responding to its
Yes.
emotions.
Mhm.
And that's also when I realized, we are much more connected to systems. So
Yes.
we are part of a larger system,
Mhm.
a bigger picture.
Mhm.
So we are part of a family system, right? That is our core
Yes.
system, and then we are part of other systems in life,
Mhm.
and that shapes us in
Yes.
many ways.
Yes.
And so loyalty is something that I now talk
Mhm.
about a lot. And part of
Mhm.
that is really understanding that my physical pain at the time was also pain that was not
Mhm.
mine,
Yes.
that I decided to carry with me
Mhm. Mhm.
out of loyalty, out
Yes.
of wanting to belong to the family system.
Yes. Yes. You know, congratulations on your Transformational Coach of the Year award. And you
Thank you so
mentioned a
much.
little bit about this on stage and why I wanted to speak with you because I too have learned of this, which is not new, but it was new for me through Derek Prince. And he has a talk on from curses to blessings. And in that talk specifically, he opens up with a secretary that pretty much the secretary shared with the boss that she didn't want to type what, I guess, whatever um, spiritual leader over the company asked to be typed. And it got back to that spiritual leader. And then all of a sudden, she ended up with arthritis.
Mm, wow.
And so that talk is amazing. It's on YouTube from curses to blessings. But when you said that, it triggered because I believe that it's more than just body. You
Yeah.
know, I believe that what is unseen is even more real than what we see. So we definitely instantly connected. And I wanted to make sure that you would come on the Shine with Tish podcast and you would share your knowledge and your wisdom. And so, thank you for sharing with me, with us, about this battle with arthritis, with depression and anxiety, and that hope that you held on to that kept you going. And so now, here you are, international global award winner as a result of pursuing your passion. And please finish the story. So, do you have arthritis today or depression?
I don't. I don't.
Hallelujah.
And more than having an international career and all of that, it's really feeling that I am aligned with my purpose.
Yes.
So I healed completely. I
Mhm.
still remember my Chinese teacher at the time when I first got into college and I
Mhm.
was learning Chinese
Mhm.
and all of that. She told me, you would never learn Chinese. You cannot handwrite. It's not for you. Just quit.
Mhm.
And that was also something that I didn't believe.
Yes.
I do think that what other people tell you is just a projection of
Mhm.
their belief systems,
Yes.
once again, of their worldviews.
Yes.
And eventually I did heal completely. So it
Mhm.
started really with the emotional body,
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
healing emotionally, spiritually, and then eventually healing physically, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I do believe that our pain,
Mhm.
so what we go through, our biggest challenges, are very much connected with our purpose in life.
Yes.
And so for me, and I'm getting
Goosebumps. Yeah.
goosebumps, yes. And I do really believe in that, and I think that was my training in a way,
Yes.
to now, I think it all comes from the self. I
Mm-hmm.
usually say from self to service, right? So
Yes. Yes.
first you do the work within
Inside.
yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's not that you stop doing the work with the self, because that is
Mm-hmm.
for a lifetime, but
Correct.
you feel ready to bring light to others as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because you created that for yourself, and now whether you want it or not, you will shine, right? You will shine
Absolutely shine on. Yes. Yes.
in people's lives.
I am so proud of you. So very proud.
Thank you so much.
So, what does it mean to clear unconscious loyalty contracts?
So
That's a
first,
lot. I wrote that question. I was like, that is like doing a dissertation in 2 minutes. Please forgive me on the question. But if you can juice it down, is I really want for our audience to really understand we're not on a different world. We're not talking a different language, but this is serious so that they can start doing an inventory to see if they have a contract that they may want to hire you to help them to eradicate that.
so let's unpack that. As you said,
Mhm.
it's a big topic.
Mhm.
I think it really determines our success in life,
Yes.
in all areas of
Mhm.
life. I would say most of our challenges are really created out of loyalty. And
Mhm.
I'm saying creating because we are not to blame, but I would say we are responsible. We are those who create most of our challenges.
Yes. Yes.
Unconsciously, we do that unconsciously, right?
Correct.
Um, so loyalty contracts
Mhm.
are unconscious agreements that
Mhm.
we establish with our family system and
Mhm.
potentially other systems in our life, because there are
Yes.
more. There
Yes.
are social constructs, social
Mhm.
agreements as well. Um, in order to belong,
Yes.
and in order um, to meet our most essential need of
Mhm.
belonging and being safe.
Yes.
So back, in the times where people would have to belong to tribes in
Mhm.
order to survive,
Yes.
that
Yes.
was really out of pure survival.
Yes.
Of course, being alone would mean you would be very vulnerable to
Mhm.
attacks. uh,
Yes.
so that is, the let's say why we have that imprint within
Yes.
ourselves.
Mhm.
So it is whether it can be the most independent person in the world.
Yes.
You may
Yes.
think we are completely self-reliant, but
Yes.
really we have an unconscious, more or
Mhm.
less conscious need to
Yes.
belong, uh,
Yes.
and to really comply with the rules of our family system,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So when we get out of that,
Mhm.
when we, for instance, we choose to do something different than
Yes.
our family,
Yeah.
or we choose to somehow outgrow, or we may perceive it as outshining
Yes.
the family,
Yes. Yes.
and our mind thinks that that is betrayal.
Correct.
So
Mm.
most of the times, people when they are trying something different, something
Yes.
that is unusual in the family, or
Yeah.
earning more, or doing
Yes.
something
Yes.
bigger,
Yes.
they will usually feel a lot of resistance.
It
And
doesn't take all of that. Why you have to be so extra? Sit down. Right?
exactly,
Some of those comments.
exactly, and it's very common to have that kind of feedback from the family,
Yes.
because in systemic work we speak about homeostasis. So
Yes.
it's that need for the system to
Yes.
go back to equilibrium.
Yes.
So the system wants to be within that
Yes.
familiar uh,
Harmony. Harmony.
harmony, exactly.
Mhm.
So when things get out of what is usual, then it sort of triggers something in the
Yes.
whole system.
Mhm.
When you grow,
Yes.
you are unconsciously disrupting the
The system.
yeah,
Yes.
yes, because all of a sudden, those who don't want to grow, those who are in comfort zones,
Yeah.
those who want to keep that stability, and stability does not exist, right?
Yes,
Stability
yes,
doesn't
yes.
exist, in my opinion. But if they don't want to grow, the more light you have, the more
Mhm.
you will illuminate their shadow,
The
and
shadow.
yeah,
Woo!
yes, and then there will be strong reactions many times. There will
Yes,
be, less connection sometimes. You will have to
yes,
set stronger boundaries, and
yeah,
all of that requires courage.
yes. Can I
Um,
share? And I'm being vulnerable in this point. I
yes.
remember, Sophia, I remember being at a family member's home visiting,
Mm,
and my mom was visiting. I have two moms, my mom who birthed me, my mom who raised me. And my mom who birthed me was visiting, and the family member made a joke.
mm,
And the adult that I am, I I simply said, you know, I think that was below the belt.
mm.
I think that joke was a little bit below the belt. That's all I said. And Sophia, I disrupted the system. Everything went crazy. I, my mother was like, "What did you say?" Because I just said, "I think that was a little below the belt," and oh, it went crazy. And my mother was like, "What happened? What did you say?" And I graciously bowed out. I bowed out because for that space, I outgrew that space. I could not sit by with inappropriate jokes that were really not edifying or building up. So I completely could identify, and hoping that our listening audience can do an inventory of when they disrupted the system, and to see, are they coexisting and toxicity, or are they willing to hire the yous or the me's so that they can get the wherewithal and the skills necessary to challenge the status quo and ultimately arrive at a place of healthy culture, family culture, right?
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing that.
Of course.
That is so important to, you know, sometimes we grow up not setting boundaries, right? Because we, as children, right,
Mhm.
since we are born, since we are in our mother's womb, we are vulnerable.
Mhm.
We literally, our life literally depends on them, right?
Yes.
So we do everything that we can to survive.
Yes.
That is
Yes.
the reality, right? And
Mhm.
so we tend to comply with a lot of things, sometimes
Mhm.
disrespect, um,
Yes.
because we are afraid that if we don't do so, that
Mhm.
may threaten our survival, right? So
Yes.
we accept a lot of things. Most people
That
accept
are not right. Mhm.
not right growing up. But
Mhm.
there comes a moment in life where
Yes.
you realize, now I'm an adult.
Yes.
And that means now I can take full responsibility for my
Correct.
life.
Correct.
And that also means setting strong boundaries,
Yes.
where respect is not being served, right? Where
Yes.
and jokes are a very indirect form of.
Oh my goodness. Yes. We could do a whole dissertation on jokes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
and that's so powerful. A lot of bullying, for example,
Mhm.
happens
Mhm.
through jokes, and
Yes.
uh, and that can undermine a person's confidence, a person's
Yes.
success in many ways.
Yes.
Something very common that I see even with clients
Mhm.
is when the person starts to grow
Mhm.
more than the family,
Yeah.
or somehow they start to trigger those
Yeah.
shadows.
Yeah.
So people will say, "Oh, you are working too much."
Mhm.
So that is one strategy, right? Because then
Mhm.
the person feels, "Oh, if I work
Mhm.
more,
Mhm.
it's a problem
Mhm. Mhm.
to my family."
I had an
Um,
assistant that told me, "You make me tired, Tish. You do too much." And so my response was, if you were me, it would be too much. But for me, this is right pace, you know?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And that's so true, right? But then, things like saying you are too much, right? Or
Mhm,
you're being cringe on
mhm,
social media. Let's say you start to post videos, you start to be
mhm.
visible, right?
Yes.
And then a way to undermine is saying, oh, that's cringe, or you don't have
Mhm.
what it takes to do that. But,
Yeah.
just starting to really use strategies to put you
Mhm,
down, and that can be also a partner, right?
mhm,
So it doesn't necessarily need to be the family system like back. It
mhm.
can be also the family system you are creating, your core system,
Correct. Correct.
and other systems in life, friendships, and so on,
Mhm.
like on a social level.
Yeah.
If you outgrow, your village or
Yes.
your like circles,
Yes.
people will react to that. Something that I see a lot
Mhm.
in couples
Yeah.
is, sometimes when one starts to grow,
Mhm.
it also triggers the other. And so
100%.
sometimes the person growing stops growing in order to stay in that relationship.
And that's why one of the reasons I transitioned. Yeah. So yeah, it's so true. It's so, so true. You want to make sure that you're growing together, or challenging each other. Hey, you can do that. I believe in you. You have what it takes, as opposed to, does it take all that? Why are you, that's too much. You're up here and you're down here. Like, yeah, that's not healthy.
And I think true love is really loving the different versions of
Mm,
the person you are with. Like
yeah.
learning to love the person as someone that is constantly evolving. Because the
100%.
idea that we meet someone and that person will be the same forever,
It's
that's
unrealistic.
real.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's really about, I think people usually meet when they
Hmm.
are in, if we speak about energy, in similar
Hmm.
frequencies, right?
Yes.
But then whether or not they keep the same frequency depends on
Hmm.
how much they want to grow
Yes.
together or not, right? So
Yeah.
if one somehow starts literally outgrowing,
Yeah.
energetically rising
Yes.
more than the other, then there's no way to keep that relationship.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
no longer sustainable.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Let's see here. This is a good one. This is a good one. It asks, how do belief systems around success, visibility, and wealth form?
That is a very good question. You actually came up with very good questions. I really love it.
Yeah.
So, belief systems, there are different layers
Hmm.
from which we can look at it.
Hmm.
First of all, epigenetics already shows
Hmm.
that we not only inherit DNA, right,
Hmm.
but we also have a type of emotional DNA,
Hmm.
which means that all the events that happen in a family system, in a culture, in
Hmm.
a country, there are many
Hmm.
levels, right? They um, they are within us. So when we are born, we are not born blank slates. We
Yeah.
are born already with data, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
data from events that happened in the past.
Yes.
So very painful, very
Yes.
intense events like wars,
Hmm.
deaths, suicides,
Abuse.
abuse,
Hmm.
exactly, namely slavery,
Hmm.
sexual
Yes.
abuse,
Yes.
right? All types of abuse.
Hmm.
All of that really precondition us, right?
Hmm. Yes.
And has an imprint
Hmm.
within us. So we are born with that. We have, let's say, a downloaded
Hmm.
set of beliefs that we are born with,
Yes.
even though they are unconscious. So
Hmm.
we not always have access to it. To be
Correct.
honest, even during a lifetime, we can go through life without even ever analyzing our belief system,
Hmm.
without
Hmm.
ever questioning.
Yes.
unless it is triggered. Because the moment
Mm-hmm.
it is triggered, then usually people tend to want to understand more about it. Not everyone,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Some people just keep repeating the
Yeah.
same cycle, the same pattern.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that is the first part, right? So we inherit belief systems from our family,
Mm-hmm.
from our culture,
Mm-hmm.
um, and so on. That is in the the collective and conscious, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Carl Jung speaks about the collective and conscious,
Yes.
and more than the collective and conscious, which is that pool, that data
Mm-hmm.
that we inherit
Mm-hmm.
collectively, that we
Mm-hmm.
share collectively. Um, then we have the family and conscious as well, which is
Correct.
everything that was repressed
Yes.
in the collective psyche of the family,
Mm-hmm.
and that exists within us,
Yes.
right? So that is the first part.
Mm-hmm.
The second part is obviously during one's lifetime,
Mm-hmm.
starting from the moment that we are in our mother's womb,
Yes.
we are already being programmed, right?
Correct. Oh, it's so scary. It's so scary, but go ahead. Yes.
So there is something also in epigenetics called the intrauterine transference, right? So
Yes. Yes.
we catch up on everything that is going on around us. So
Yes.
sometimes even it's common for parents to say, "Oh, the child is too young to understand this," or no, that is such a lie.
It is.
Children are sponges.
A
Their
hundred
thinking
percent.
mind, their thinking mind is not fully developed yet
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
until, especially until the age of 8, 9 years old.
Correct.
So that means that they accept everything as a fact.
Correct.
Whatever you make them feel, whatever the
Mm-hmm,
mother is feeling, even
mm-hmm,
during pregnancy,
mm-hmm,
if there is abuse, if the relationship between the parents is good or not,
mm-hmm.
whether they are wanted or not,
Yeah, yeah.
all of that is creating an imprint. Um, birth, the birth, right, itself, it's a
Mm-hmm,
moment for many that is very traumatic as well.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So there is regression, right? I've done that myself, like
mm-hmm,
going to the moment of birth, and you can feel the emotions that your mother
mm-hmm,
is feeling, that your parents were feeling
mm-hmm.
at that moment, all the fears and
Yeah.
so on. And so as we go through life,
Mm-hmm,
of course we learn a lot
mm-hmm.
by, also our parents are our role models, our
Yeah.
primary caregivers, right? It
Mm-hmm.
can be parents or it can be other caregivers.
Yes.
So based on how they act, their belief systems, what they say, and so
Yes.
on, we form beliefs. So they are our main programmers throughout
Mm-hmm,
life.
mm-hmm,
And then we go through life,
mm-hmm,
whether through repetition or emotional intensity,
mm-hmm,
reinforcing those beliefs.
mm-hmm.
And of course, then we get to decide, right? If we have a level of awareness that allows
Yeah.
us to, if we want to create that change, and
Mm-hmm.
we can completely reprogram our minds.
A
That is
hundred percent. 100%. So I concur on all fronts, just the propensity, being predisposed,
yeah,
predisposed. So that's why I'm not particularly a drinker, just that
mhm,
predisposed.
yeah,
And then you choose just not wanting to have the cycles, not wanting to have the cycles, wanting a new start
yeah.
for myself. And hopefully our listeners will want a new start for themselves as well. So thanks for breaking down belief system. What are some common unknown loyalty contracts individuals may hold on to without even realizing it?
Hmm. So there are many like contracts, right? So we are really, each person is a very unique
Yes.
universe, right?
Mhm,
And the
mhm,
family system itself has a combination of events that make it unique.
mhm.
However, there are very, very common contracts that most of us, I would say most people, go through.
Yes.
That they seal, they create these agreements in an early age,
Yeah.
and then carry them throughout life. One very common one around success is if I outgrow my parents, I cannot belong, right? So if I outshine, if I outgrow my parents, I
Mhm.
cannot belong. So I will not outgrow
Mhm.
them. I will not earn more than my father. I will not earn
Mhm.
more than my mother. I will not be more successful than my sister or my
Wow.
brother, because if they didn't succeed, then I need to stay in the shade of them in order to belong.
Wow. Wow.
A very common one is also about happiness.
Mhm.
So, if let's say a child of a depressed mother will
Yes.
not many times allow themselves to be
Mhm.
happy. So, usually that's why depression many times gets perpetuated,
Yes.
because it's that loyalty contract to their pain. I will carry your pain so you don't have to carry it, which is an illusion because they will still carry it, and it just gets perpetuated.
Yes.
Another very common one is if the parents' marriage is not happy.
Mhm.
Many times children will take that, and throughout life they will seek for similar dynamics in order
Yes.
to recreate that and sort of try
Make it
to
work.
work on it by themselves, right?
Mhm.
So it's a way to resolve it within themselves, and it's also that loyalty contract to who am I to have a fulfilling healthy relationship.
Mhm.
My
Mhm.
parents didn't,
Yeah.
right? So those are agreements. Of course, then well, you can change them, you can break them, you can dissolve them.
100%. 100%. You can definitely create a brand new system of your own and beliefs, right? Remove that limiting belief, create a new thought,
Yeah,
and move forward.
we are really like computers in a
Yes.
way. So we have pre-downloaded softwares, right,
Yes.
programs,
Yes.
but then we come to a point where we can do a reset. We
Yes.
can remove the programs.
Mhm.
And there's something that do you know Joe Vitale?
I don't.
Okay, so he wrote a book about Ho'oponopono and the Hawaiian philosophy of
Okay.
um, reconnection and forgiveness in the family system,
Mhm.
reconciliation in the
Mhm.
family system,
Mhm.
right? So Hawaii is a beautiful place in terms of ancestral healing. It has so much
Yes.
wisdom. And so he wrote that book based on
Yes.
also, teaching, local teachings in Hawaii. And he speaks about the zero state.
Nice.
And that is something that other approaches in systemic healing also speak about.
Mhm.
So there's an approach called GSR,
Mhm.
which is a Russian system
Mhm.
of healing.
Mhm.
And it also speaks about that zero state, which is a state where we don't have any programs.
Mhm.
So basically, it's the idea that we actually don't have to reprogram ourselves. We
Mhm.
just have to clear the
Yes.
unhealthy
The
programs from,
cachet. It's not moving, right?
and then everything flows in
Yes.
that zero state, because what is preventing the flow to happen, for you
Mhm.
to be connected with
Mhm.
beautiful things, is
Yes.
just those programs
Mhm.
that want to protect you. Our psyche always wants to protect us,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But sometimes those programs are really outdated and don't serve
Correct.
us.
Correct.
So
Correct.
but we are really just computers in a way,
Mhm.
and those programs have to do with, now that we are adults, as we have, a higher level of awareness.
Yes.
It's like trauma is not our fault, but healing is our responsibility.
Absolutely, 100%. And I mentioned that as I was recording, as I was in the green room before we started, I talked about parenting twice. You inherit what you get in your formative years. And then as you become an adult, you get to say, hey, I'm going to go to some counseling, some therapy, and right some wrongs that were inherited, from my family and friends, that community, right?
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Let's see here. I think we just talked about that in terms of, so I'll go into the next question. We kind of talked about that a little bit too. So it asks, is staying small or invisible an unconscious loyalty contract in some families? And I believe we answered that and said that yes, it was. The next question here, how do the contract show up in an individual's life? We did cover that, and some signs and patterns. So here's one that we haven't touched. Can you give an example of a client without identifying them, of the struggle that you helped them to overcome from beginning to the lovely person that they are today?
Yes. So where actually I'm giving you an example of one of my first clients
Mm-hmm.
ever, and she was a lovely lady,
Mm-hmm.
young lady,
Mm-hmm.
very successful.
Mm-hmm.
So she was working in a multinational company in Asia.
Nice.
And I remember when I first started working with her, I mean, she's wonderful, creative, right, full
Mm-hmm.
of life.
Mm-hmm.
But in that particular moment, she wasn't happy with her
Hmm.
work. So she was doing the type of work that everyone would look and say, wow, it's the perfect job. It's, very well paid and so
Yeah.
on. So everything is good, right? You look
Mm-hmm.
on the surface, everything is good,
Mm-hmm.
but it was not aligned with her higher purpose. It was not
Mm-hmm.
aligned with her values. And so when we do something that is not aligned,
Breaks.
uh, it won't flow.
Yes.
The universe or God, whatever you
Mm-hmm.
want to call it, depending on
Mm-hmm.
your
Mm-hmm.
belief
Mm-hmm.
system, will not give you peace in
Yeah,
something that is not meant for you,
it's true.
right?
It's true.
Relationships, work, whatever it is, it will always like move you in the direction of something that is aligned with you.
Yes. Yes.
And so at that time, we worked on the dynamics in her life, what was
Mm-hmm.
going on really, and it was very interesting because her block had to do with her father. So her
Mm-hmm.
father was a very successful professional in the media industry.
Mm-hmm.
Her dream was to work in the media industry as well. She's
Mm-hmm.
a very
Mm-hmm.
good communicator. She,
Mm-hmm.
very alive, very expressive.
Yes.
Um, but because her father was
Mm-hmm.
very successful in that
Mm-hmm.
industry,
Mm-hmm.
she was afraid that if she would also do that, she would
Mm-hmm.
be somehow competing with him. She would be either staying in the shade of him, right?
Yes.
Or even if she could potentially outshine,
Oh, here. Mm-hmm.
do bigger, and all of that didn't feel comfortable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I remember we had one session together about
Mm-hmm.
this, and it was a very powerful session. She
Mm-hmm.
had big insights, and she was ready. And I think that's something very important in
Yes.
coaching, is
Mm-hmm.
how ready the client is
It
for the,
really is. Mm-hmm.
because it doesn't matter how good of a coach you are.
100%. I know it too well.
If the person is not willing
Willing and able.
to create change
Mm-hmm.
in their lives, then there's they will do it in their own time.
Right.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
and
Or
so
they may never do it.
yeah, exactly, that's very
Mm-hmm.
true as well. Or
Mm-hmm.
they may blame the circumstances, they
Yeah.
may blame the government,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
parents, because all the work that I do is really understanding that, acknowledging that what happens right now in our life, what is going on,
Mm-hmm.
has a root cause somewhere
Yeah.
in the past. Yes, it does, but it's not about blaming anyone.
That's right.
It's really about just having that awareness,
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging what
Mm-hmm.
happened, but then taking full responsibility,
Responsibility. Uh-huh.
right? And then based on that new awareness, based on that data that we collected from the past, we can
Mm-hmm.
create change in the future.
Yes. Yes.
So, what happened was the next day after our session, she
Mm-hmm.
called me and she said, Sophia, I quit my job.
I love it.
It was within a day.
I
It was
love
so
it.
fast. And at the time, as I told you, it was one of my first clients.
Mm.
So I was so nervous about it because I was like, oh my God, what happened here?
Mhm,
How is
mhm,
it possible for that?
mhm, mhm.
But no, it's really when the client is ready,
Correct.
change is fast. Change
Mhm.
can be, in a fraction.
Yeah.
The moment you readjust
Your
internally,
mind. Mhm.
the outside starts rearranging completely.
Yes, yes.
And so she quit her job. She created her own podcast, her own
Love it.
channels, and you could see, she's shining, creating her own content. You can see like it's so natural for her. It's a
Mhm.
gift that she has,
Love
and
it.
she was in the shadow. She was working in something that to others was good, but she was not having. She
Yes,
was happy. She was not living her true core frequency.
yes, yes.
She was just not, and she gave herself permission to,
Exactly.
and that's the key to success. It's
Uh-huh.
we can only be as successful as we give ourselves
Yes,
permission to be
yes.
successful,
Yeah.
right?
What a story. Congratulations. That was amazing. One session, fix, had that paradigm shift, quit the job, started her stuff, and just soaring high. That's so, so phenomenal. I love it. And so, the last question before I ask you how our listening audience could stay in touch with you, what's the difference between mindset work and the deeper reprogramming that you do?
So that is a very good question as well. I think that the reason why my work is different in a way
Mhm,
is because I bridge two different sides of healing.
mhm,
I think many, therapy many
mhm,
times
mhm,
focuses just on the past
mhm.
and stays there for a
That's,
long time.
that's right. That's right.
And, many people stay stuck in therapy,
Mhm, mhm,
for
mhm.
a long time, years and years,
Yes.
revolving around the same problems,
Mhm,
ruminating
mhm,
around the same
mhm, mhm,
problems.
mhm.
But they never bring that to really elaborate, to really create
The
change,
change. That's
real
right.
change in their lives,
Mhm,
right?
mhm, mhm,
On the other hand, we have a lot of approaches to coaching that are
mhm,
very future oriented, they are
mhm,
very
mhm,
action oriented,
mhm,
but really sort of ignore the past
mhm.
and don't acknowledge what happened in the past. And what
Interesting.
I like to do is, and in our sessions we do
Yes.
that, is many times we go back to the past,
Mhm,
we acknowledge what
mhm.
happened in the past, we
Yeah.
see what are the events
Mhm.
are very important, family
Yes.
secrets,
Yes.
like
Yes.
things
Yes.
that are like hidden from us, or
Yes.
contracts, as I said,
Mhm.
everything that happened before us or in our early years.
Yes.
We acknowledge all of that, we see
Mhm.
it, because
Mhm.
sometimes it is there just waiting for us to look at it.
Yes. 100%.
And the simple fact that we look at it, we acknowledge it,
Freedom.
it's freedom.
Mhm.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. And that's so much emotional, there's so much emotional catharsis,
Yes.
right? Also
Yes.
that liberation, that
Mhm.
coming to the surface of
Mhm.
unconscious context.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I work with the unconscious mind a lot,
Mhm. Mhm.
through hypnosis.
Mhm.
There's a lot of techniques that I was to go deeper into the
Mhm.
unconscious,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
the unconscious is 90%
It
or more
is. It is.
of what we are.
It
It's
is.
really under the
It
sea,
is.
under
It
the
is.
that
Mhm.
all the keys to our challenges are.
Mhm.
So we bring the keys, right? We go to the deeper into the sea. We bring
Mhm.
the keys to the surface,
Mhm.
and then with those keys, we yes turn forward, right? We
Yeah.
stop just looking back, because
Yes. Yes.
a lot of people are looking back
Mhm.
into their family and they are not living their lives.
Mhm.
But then we
Mhm.
bring those keys, we look into their
Mhm.
lives and we see,
Yes.
okay, now with this new awareness, what
Mhm.
change, what transformation can I create that is
Yes.
tangible, that
Yes.
is, that is real, that
Mhm.
is not just on the mind, but it's
Mhm.
also bringing that to our life with real
Yes.
change.
Yes.
And so, not only staying on a conscious level, but
Mhm.
really getting deeper.
Mhm.
not offering just band-aid solutions
Mhm. Mhm.
that cover the symptoms, but really
Mhm.
getting into the root cause.
Mhm.
And sometimes when we work with one root cause,
Mhm.
once, just something deeper, we
Yeah.
transform so many things on the
a
surface
hundred
because
percent.
it's deeper, right?
Yes, yes.
Right.
So I worked with Brave Thinking Institute, and that's exactly just the difference between traditional therapies is primarily archaic and looking back, whereas as a transformational coach, we have the rear view mirror. Yes, we do want to look back. We do want to acknowledge what happened, what was the trauma, what was, the abuse, what was the thing that has me chained and bound and unable to run and move forward the way that I was created to do. And then creating that blueprint, right? Of what do I want the front? So we looked at the back. What's the blueprint we want to create so that we can use this big windshield, glass that we have in front of us? So that's our GPS system to take us where we want to go.
You
So,
know, in family constellations,
mhm,
there is a concept that is very important in healing.
mhm,
That is the order of love,
mhm.
and that means that in the family there is a hierarchy. So
Yes.
we have grandparents. After
Mhm.
grandparents, we have parents, and then
Yes.
ourselves, right?
Yes.
Children. And so we have this hierarchy, and when
Mhm.
that order is disrupted, um,
Mhm.
which means there
The
is a
child is being mom. Yes, I
exactly,
get it. I get it.
that's a lot.
Mhm.
So what happens is the flow of love cannot flow right in
Yeah.
the family, and many times children who are parentified, right, so they
Mhm.
are the parent, they
Yes.
keep looking back.
Yes.
And literally, we in family constellations, we also use figures literally to represent that. And
Yes.
you can do that even live with people who take
Mhm.
roles. But basically, if the person keeps looking back, they
Yes.
will not succeed.
Correct.
They will not be able to create their own life because they
Correct.
are invested in the
Yeah.
past. They
Yeah.
are the peacemakers before, in other dynamics. So
Yeah.
they cannot create. They don't have enough resources to then
Yeah.
look forward. And so inverting that and making sure that everyone is looking in front and that the
Correct.
hierarchy is respected is so
Correct.
fundamental.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had a friend, and we were speaking and everything was good. And man, they were stuck. And I was like, man, I would love to continue our conversations, but you need to get the necessary help.
Yeah.
You are stuck in a decade, in a season that doesn't exist anymore. And I've done everything that I could to show you, to paint the picture, to set forward. But again, the only person that we can control are ourselves. And, doing all that we can to guide the person. But at the end of the day, like your client, the next day she was like, I'm out of here. Here's my resignation notice. I'm going to pursue my dream. They have to be ready to do the work.
And the child has this illusion that they are big. They are
Yes.
bigger than they are, especially when they are in very challenging family dynamics.
Hmm.
Sometimes they think they are these superheroes,
Hmm. Hmm.
and they just stay in the middle of parents.
Hmm.
They are the peace, like mediators
Hmm.
between people in the
Hmm.
family.
Hmm.
Some people do take that role. And then there's something also very interesting, that is sometimes we establish contracts
Hmm.
even with people that are no longer here. So sometimes the unconscious contracts are not
Hmm.
even with people that are still alive.
Yeah.
So sometimes people come with, they are feeling stuck, they are feeling a lot of resistance, and so
Hmm.
on.
Hmm.
And I tell them, okay, so let's see, if this has something to do with your parents, right? So
Hmm.
we analyze that, and they're like, oh, my parents are no longer here. So how,
Hmm.
how does that connect? It does
Yes.
not matter because we are dealing with the representations of them
Hmm.
in our psyche. They're
Yes.
not really, it doesn't matter, what is, if they are alive or not.
Yes.
It can be a sibling that has passed away, for
Mm-hmm.
example, and then you feel that, because they didn't live, they didn't
Yes.
have a chance to grow and so on, you also decide not to grow.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to understand that it doesn't matter if they are still alive in this life,
Mm-hmm.
dimension of reality,
Yes.
they exist within our psyche.
Yes.
Those
Yeah.
contracts are within ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's why
Mm-hmm.
work is not, you don't even have to, of course, you do have to create change in
Yes.
relationships. You need to
Mm-hmm.
set boundaries and so on.
Correct.
But you don't have to, go and resolve things with them. You really have to first rearrange within. That is
Yes.
the key thing to do, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not about focusing on them, but focusing on our psyche, our
Yes.
internal
Yeah.
contracts.
You have an ebook. How does the listening audience get more of you? Tell us about the ebook and all your handles so that they can stalk you, hire you, and continue to learn this wonderful information.
Yes. So as I said, so I have a project called Pico. Pico is like the umbrella, and then there are different things under that umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is Pico Publishing. And so I do have a book called Hidden Loyalties and
Mm-hmm.
Conscious Dynamics around money, success, and visibility, where
Mm-hmm.
we cover all of that in detail, how we create these pacts, and how to really also break them, right? How so
Mm-hmm.
set free and create change in our lives. And there are more titles to come this year. So I'm very excited about that as well. There are picture books for children, and
Nice.
not only for children, but for the family, really. I
Mm-hmm.
do believe in the concept of conscious parenting,
Mm-hmm.
conscious families, and
Yes.
really bringing that awareness to family dynamics, because
Mm-hmm.
children are just a mirror to parents. Uh,
Yes.
they are really, all relationships really help
Mm-hmm.
us to grow because they are mirrors, and
Mm-hmm.
we need that mirror in order
Yes.
to really see ourselves, see
Yes.
our triggers. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's why children really know what buttons to push.
Yeah.
So there are more titles to come soon, both, as I said, for the adult individual that wants to create change, for the family, for children,
Mm-hmm.
with concepts around systemic healing, wellness, coaching, and so on. And then there's Pico Academy,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm very passionate about. And we will have a cohort coming up in
Yes.
September or October. I'm still
Mm-hmm.
deciding the dates. There is a wait list. Um,
Nice.
and there's a link with all my products, which is on my stand store. My
Mm-hmm.
stand store is Sofia Xavier,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also on my LinkedIn. So I
Mm-hmm.
really think that LinkedIn is the platform that I'm currently more active on.
Excellent.
So if you want to connect with me, do that on LinkedIn. That would be great. You can follow my posts, my
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
content there, and then the link to my stand store is also there, so you can check out. The book is also there, so
Yeah.
Hidden Loyalties is there, and you can download it for free.
Mm-hmm.
And then my website, www.sofiaxavier.com, is
Mm-hmm.
coming up very soon, within the next 2 weeks. So it's
Mm-hmm.
almost ready.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also www.picoacademy.org.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, also my emails if you want to
Mm-hmm.
do that, Sofia Xavier at picoacademy.org. And you can
Nice.
reach out to me um, through that as well.
Yes. And I'll be sure to make sure I put it down in the description. So all they have to do is click and they'll be right there. Sofia, it has been amazing. I think that our audience is, wow, their minds are blown. They're thinking about doing their inventory and what contracts they could be holding on to and what behaviors should not be happening that they're allowing to happen because they haven't established a healthy boundary. I think you've just hit a home run. Thank you so much for being the guest here. And until next time, keep shining.
Thank you so
Toodles.
much, Tish.
Mhm.
And it's been lovely being here. And I see your light and I see
Thank
how you are
you.
illuminating others' path. And so thank you for that. And thank you
Of
for being a
course.
wonderful host.
Thank you.